Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
For those of you who may not have been with us recently, oi.
That's weird.
This is our cantorial soloist, Karen Pincus, who is joyfully joining us this year, and our newest rabbi, Mikey Mitgang. So welcome to all of you, and welcome to them, and it's a joy having them both with us this Shabbat. So last month, when my husband Adam and I were visiting our 3.5-year-old grandson, Yoshi, in Sacramento, we went on a bug hunt in the 100-degree heat. Having successfully found a few bugs, we returned to the air conditioning very happily, and then spent an hour or so reading his insect encyclopedia. It was truly breathtaking, truly, not just because of the air conditioning, but because of the incredibly awesome variety of bugs that there are in our world. Beyond imagination, from glowworms that create magical blue-green displays in caves and forests by producing their own light, to the peacock spider, where the males perform colorful dances and wave abdominal fans to attract their mates. It was really mind-blowing. And at the end of the book, I said, wow, to Yoshi. Wow, God sure created an astonishing world. And he thought for a second and he said, who is God? I paused, thinking, I've answered this before. In fact, I'm paid to know the answer to this question. Who, what, how, where is God? Rabbi Larry Kushner tells the story about the author proofs he received from his publisher for his book entitled, God Was in This Place, and I did not know. So Federal Express took it upon itself to unceremoniously shorten the title from these 11 words to just one word, God. And so one day, a Federal Express package arrived at his home from his publisher, labeled God Proofs. After his kids signed for it, they called him at work to tell him that what he'd been waiting for his whole life had just arrived via FedEx. It's finally here, Dad, they said, God Proofs. And without missing a beat, Rabbi Kushner said, is there a return address? Yes, I'm in good company. Rabbi Kushner and I may be rabbis, but we too are seekers, trying our best to understand God. This week, we begin reading from our 5th and final book of the Torah, the book of Devarim, or Words, or Deuteronomy, as it's also known. And it's in this book that we find the affirmation of God that we recite at every single worship service and before we go to sleep at night, traditionally, the words of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Listen, Israel, Adonai is our God. Adonai is one. What the Shema teaches me is that God is the unifying force in our universe, the oneness that binds us all together. This is not the omniscient, all-knowing God of the Torah, or the omnipotent, all-powerful God we read about in the Machzor, our High Holy Day prayer book, with which I wrestle. I have a much harder time relating to those images of God. Instead, I find comfort in God's own explanation of who God is when Moses asks God, what should I call you? In the book of Exodus, God responds, Ehyeh asher ehyeh. I am what I will be, or I will be what I am. That word, Ehyeh, Aleph, Hey, Yud, Hey, is the very same root as the word we use for Adonai, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, which is a name that is actually more like a verb. It's God's way of saying, you cannot define me. You cannot pin me down. I am what I will be. So what does this mean? Perhaps it means that God continues to unfold in the universe through our consciousness of God's presence, our awareness of the invisible lines connecting all of us, the oneness of creation. When we speak the words of the Shema, perhaps we cannot define exactly who, what, where God is. But as Supreme Court Justice Potter once famously said, I know it when I see it. This is the difference between witnessing God and proving God exists or defining God. Take a moment to think about a time that you felt a flash of God's presence in your life. Was it when you were recently at a World Cup match and you cheered wildly along with thousands of other fans and felt yourself to be part of this great surge of energy? Or when you were so deeply involved in a conversation with somebody that an hour passed in what felt like a minute? Or was it after a strenuous hike, reaching the top of a summit and then gazing out and feeling like you were profoundly entwined in God's creation? Or maybe it was at a protest when you felt like God's messenger. Or simply marveling at an insect encyclopedia with a child. Encounters with God are available to us readily if we are open to them. Our awareness of God as a force greater than ourselves can be what summons us to do good in the world, to do better, to give more of ourselves, to do mitzvot, and then the action of doing the mitzvah actually connects us back to the divine. It is this spark of God which whispers inside of each one of us and gives people the courage to do the tiring, sometimes risky work of helping to manifest God's presence in the world. Through feeding the hungry, defending justice, healing the sick. As the great Jewish philosopher Martin Buber, one of my favorites, once said, God does not want to be believed in, debated, and defended by us, but simply to be realized through us. For if someone comes to you and asks for help, it's not for you to receive them with a pious word saying, trust and cast your needs to God. You should act as if there were no God, but only one person in the whole world who can help this person, you. Here we are in the book of Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, but at the very beginning of the Torah, we are taught that God created humans in the image of God. God actually created humans to be God's partners to manifest and reflect God's presence in the world. So I've been thinking about my grandson Yoshi's question all summer long, or rather, my whole life. The question is a good one. Who is God? We cannot fully know the answer, but we should keep asking and seeking. God is the creator of this amazing world, I told Yoshi. We are all so different, every bug, every human being, but we're all part of this world that God created, and so we are all connected to one another. That seemed to satisfy him. My hope and prayer is that he continues to ask the question and that each one of us continue to do so too. Amen.
Amen.